From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant. Fancy seeing us around here, right? Coming up on today's show, we talk with Matthew Brune of the Bengal Tiger about those Tigers, see the matchup between Florida State and LSU, how he sees it playing out, and we get to the rest of your questions on the Renegade Express. Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida, as well as our great friends over at vitaminenergy.com. If you're in Tallahassee, anytime, any day, you should go to the Corner Pocket, 2475 Appalachia Parkway, or hit up cptallybar.com to maybe even place your order to go if you're in a pinch for time. But it's best enjoyed taking your time. The food, the drinks, the billiards, the darts, the good times, the good people, always over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code is WarChantBOGO. That's WarChant, B-O-G-O. Use it when you go to VitaminEnergy.com, and you'll get an item of equal or lesser value for absolutely free. I love it. It's powering me through these tough times. I wish I could plug items into it and have it charge them, but it'll just have to do my body and my brain and my mind. It's energy with benefits. It's VitaminEnergy.com. Sorry for putting all that at the top of the show, everybody, but shout out to our sponsors. They're the reason why we do all these shows now. We used to do like 2 a week, 3 a week. But everybody's like, hey, can we advertise on your show? We're like, all right, sure, I guess. Got to do them every day now. Got to do them every day. We love it, though. We love it. It's football season. We're here. We're glad you're here as well. Certainly appreciate it. Corey is as well, I assume. I think so. Probably on a heater. Hopefully a heater. Anywho. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to warchant.com. It's 50% off, everybody. 50% off for an entire year for first-time subscribers. So take advantage of that great opportunity. Also, be sure to come hang out with us in downtown Orlando on Saturday and Sunday, maybe even Friday. Some people will be out there partying. Saturday, 4 to 5 o'clock, a meet and greet over at Hooch, and then a live edition of Headlines to follow between 5 and 6 o'clock. We'll also have a pregame show with Jeff Cameron and Tom Lang, operating and originating from Hooch on Sunday, and then a post-game show with Tom Lang and Gene Williams. I'll go all the way till 1 a.m. So who loves you? We do. We got you covered. Over-under contest also going to be over on warchant.com. Get involved. You can win a $25 gift card to Garnet and Gold. All right, so we've got the interview with Matthew Brune. I think we'll maybe put that on the back end of the show. So look in the show description, the show notes. I'll show you the timestamp if you're here just to listen to us talk about LSU. Otherwise, Corey and I, Part 2 of the mailbag. Let's get to it. Let's go to our guy, Mark. Wake up. M. Adams, CZ. What a difference 2 years can make, right? 2 years ago, we had one of the worst receiver units in Power 5. Most wanted the receiver coach gone. Now we've got one of the best units in the country. So who do you think gets the most targets against LSU? Who has the most receiving yards? See you all in Orlando. Man, I'm going to...
Yeah, we'll see you, Mark. We'll see you there, buddy.
Yeah.
I think Johnny gets the most targets, don't you?
Okay, but maybe I'll say then Keon with yards.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Johnny, I mean, there were some games last year, I feel like Johnny had 12 or 13 targets.
Yeah, man. Like that Florida game, he had like 8 in the first half, I feel like.
Yeah, and only caught 2 of them.
Yeah.
Or 1 of them. But he made a big one there at the end. But if he'd have caught more, that game wouldn't have come down there to that end of the, like it had to, the dramatics. But yeah, I just think, man, when in doubt, you've got what you think is a get-out-of-jail-free card at number 14. Mm-hmm. And everything else being equal, maybe the momentum's going against you. Maybe it's 3rd and 12. I just think you're going to throw it up to 14 a good bit. So I just feel like – and he's good at getting open in the zone too. He's good at finding soft spots. It's not just running down the sideline, leaping over guys. He makes a lot of catches in the middle of the field. He's just a tough cover, man. He's a different dude.
All right, next one, Noel_Dynasty. Oh, he ordered the Vitamin Energy. I'm reporting back after last week now that I've received my order of Focus Vitamin Energy. I've been taking it right after lunch to avoid the sleepy afternoons, and all caps, wow, exclamation point. Big energy for the first few hours, and then it tapers off like it should, adding more to the cart. I'm so happy. Awesome, man. I'm glad you liked it, man. I mean, we told you, but sometimes things differ by body types and such. But I'm glad it hit the spot for you.
It's good to meet a convert, to hear from a convert. Yeah. It's good to convert people, and I feel like I did that at Corner Pocket last week too when I brought so many samples for people to try. I think that's going to get a lot of people converted.
Yeah, I like it. We'll have some giveaways in Orlando, so come out to Hooch, hang out with us. All right, so we hear a lot about Jordan's Heisman hopes, but nothing about Verse's Heisman hopes. Brian Kelly is talking more about Jared Verse than Jordan. What will it take for Verse to, 1, get his name on the radar, and 2, what would it take for him to win? If you have time, I also have a second question. We can get to the second question, but you've got to have, you talk about Heisman moments. If you want to be a defender, Corey, right? Like, you've got to have some Heisman, strip sack, tipping the ball at the line of scrimmage and catching it. And you got to do some crazy stuff. Not that he's incapable of it, but I can't see it. Can you see it?
No. No. Yeah, because you can nullify a defensive end if you just run away from him every other play and you get rid of the ball quick. And I don't. There might be another defensive player that wins it, other than Charles Woodson, but I don't think it's going to be a defensive end. I think Ndamukong Suh should have won it the year Colt McCoy did, but that was 14, 15 years ago. And then Manti Te'o obviously should have won it too, because of the heartache he had to deal with that season to fight through that. There's his fiance, right?
Yeah,
and she just dies without ever meeting him. That's rough. And so he had a fiance and a girlfriend that he never even met, and then she died, and then and she was fake, and you have to live with all that and go make tackles. Come on, guys! If he wasn't going to win it, nobody will. That's just how it is, man. It goes to the quarterbacks typically. It goes to the best offensive player or one of the best offensive players on one of the best offensive teams. That's what the award is now. But Jared Verse can rest easy knowing he's going to make a lot of money next year playing football.
Yeah, because a quarterback can lose a game but still put up good stats. But if Jared Verse goes a game without, if Florida State loses a game and he doesn't have a pressure, that would totally disqualify him. But you could still lose a game as Jordan Travis and probably still win the Heisman. You can maybe even lay an egg, but if you come back and you win big the next week or two and you still make the playoff, you can. There's a lot more wiggle there. It feels like. I'd love for that to happen to a guy on the defense and for it to be Jared. That'd be amazing.
Hey, it just won't, though. I would too.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Even as a Heisman voter, I think it's ridiculous that one side of the ball is just completely ignored, but it essentially is. And then, honestly, if you want him to win the Heisman, and we're not giving away secrets because we haven't seen this happen, let him play some tight end or some fullback or something. Let him play wildcat. Yeah. That's the only way he's going to make a name for himself enough to get in the conversation, even if he had 15 sacks.
Second part of his question was, if you have the time, should FSU have the following records? Where are they ranked on September 26th when the polls come out? So I think this would be after their first 4 games, not necessarily the first playoff bowl. So what if they're 4-0 and they've won all of them close?
I think they're number 2.
Yeah, I'll go that. Yeah. What if they're 3-1 with a close loss to Clemson?
At that point, it starts. You're behind Clemson. You're also behind Georgia. You're behind all the undefeated teams, probably. So it's hard to know who would be undefeated. I would say somewhere
6, 7.
I was going to say 8 or 9, but okay. Somewhere in that range.
2-2. Both of your losses are by 1 score.
You are 24th.
No, really?
Oh yeah, man. There's going to be too many undefeated and 1-loss teams, and they're looking for. They're itching. I would think you're going to be in the 20s if you're 2-2 after 4 games.
You're 8 and you lose to Clemson close. You drop down to 13, and then you lose to Clemson close in Death Valley. I still think you're in the teens.
You said Clemson twice. You meant LSU the first time.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, but you'll have just lost to Clemson. Your 2 wins will be against Southern Miss and at Boston College. So yeah, just think if you're looking at the wins. You're probably, and that's just how voters are, man. That's how they've always been. Maybe they give Florida State the benefit of the doubt, but I don't think they're 15th after being 2-2 when they're going to be after, September 26th, they're still going to be, I don't know, man, 18, 20 undefeated teams.
Yeah. All right. You're right. Jody High Roller, would you buy Keon Coleman as the number 1 receiver this year? Also, no Vandrevius Jacobs on the depth chart, ? No comment to the second part, and absolutely I would buy Keon being the number 1 receiver. I'm not giving away my Johnny Wilson stock, but I can see a world without having to squint my eyes where Keon's the number 1 receiver. Absolutely, yeah.
Yep. I think Keon, I've said this, I think he's a better receiver than Johnny, more, polished, I guess. Johnny is more of a freak big play guy. But yeah, man, that's not a shot at Johnny Wilson. I've been a big fan of Johnny Wilson. I think he's going to have a big time year, a huge year. I just think Keon Coleman's that good. Yeah. Keon Coleman is very, very good, y'all. He is. I would say he's the best receiver Florida State's had since Rashad, and I don't know that it's close. Is that fair to say? You think?
Auden Tate was pretty solid, but I hear you.
You're going to miss me with that Auden Tate stuff. Auden Tate was good, and he didn't have a great quarterback thrown to him. You're right. Different circumstances. But Keon Coleman would have started in 2013. That's how good Keon Coleman is. And I'm saying that knowing that Johnny Wilson is an absolute freak. I'm just telling you, man. Keon I don't care if he has 3 catches for 19 yards against LSU. Don't come back at me with this. Wait till the end of the year. Keon Coleman is awesome. Yeah. And Keon Coleman is one of the best receivers in the country. He just happens to be on a team that has another one of the best receivers in the country.
All right,
Keon could be the number 1 guy for sure.
Yeah. All right, 2 more. Our guy Jaronol, 1518, who just signed up for the first time in a long time. Appreciate you joining the family. Over under 0.5 touchdowns this year for DJ Lundy. See you in Orlando, assuming the Storm doesn't make a loop around the Atlantic.
See you in Orlando, and I'm going to say it's a good question. They like DJ Lundy.
Yeah.
I would still say under, I think.
Yeah, I'll take the under as well.
Yeah.
Last one, our guy, Old Dads and Old. Wake up. No buzz at all last Saturday in the sports books. Bellagio, the Cosmopolitan, even with Notre Dame playing. I feel like that's going to change this weekend. I see Jorian Jones and Darion Williamson on the depth chart, but I really haven't heard much on them. If you've discussed them, let me apologize, but what is the status of those two? Cheers to a victory, Old Dad.
Come on, Old Dad. You can't ask us stuff like that.
Yeah, in some corners, green means go, but in other corners, green means no.
But Jarian on Tuesday did have a couple of nice plays and one-on-ones. He also got beat I can't remember who got him. It might have been Winston. But then he came back. Oh, yeah, it was Winston Wright. Had a big catch against him on a great move and burst. But then the next rep they went up against each other. Jarian was right there with him. It was a great play and knocked the ball away. So, yeah, Jarian will play a good bit. Right. And also, speaking of sports books, as I sit here at the beautiful – I'm not going to give away where I'm at.
You're at the Bow?
A beautiful casino in Biloxi, Mississippi, that has a sports book. Daddy's going to maybe place some college football wagers once he's done recording this. I'm not going to tell you how I'm betting, but I'm going to place a few wagers.
Why are you supposed to tell us? Why won't you tell us? You don't want to jinx it?
No, I'm not jinxing anything. I'm not telling y'all how I bet. Okay. What's the matter?
All right. MyBookie.ag. Sign up for the first time and use the promo code WARCHANT. You'll get an instant cash deposit bonus, giving you more money, more leverage to place more bets, maybe a parlay, maybe some different futures, maybe a game, maybe the live casino. It's all there at mybookie.ag. Look at this, man. Florida State now plus 2,100 to win the national title. That means if you put down like $100, you'll win $2,100, I think. Or I'm totally wrong on that. If you put $100 down, you'll win $2,100. I got it right the first time. Trust your math, kids. Maybe do that one. I don't know. You can also bet on Jordan to win the Heisman. I think he's plus 1,250 right now over on MyBookie. He is plus 1,250, so you put $100 on him to win, and he wins it, you get $1,250. So lots of Florida State-centric futures out there for you. Try them. See what's out there that you like best, maybe your best value. It's all there at mybookie.ag. Just be sure when you sign up for the first time, use the promo code WARCHANT. Get your best bang for buck with that instant cash deposit bonus. Back for round number 2, our guy Matthew Brune from the Bengal Tiger, the On3 website for LSU Sports. Matthew, we made it, man. How's it feel?
Feels great, man. It's been a long off season, obviously. A lot of, for both programs, LSU and Florida State, it's just been a lot of waiting and anticipation of all right, we're a top 10 team. Let's see if they can do it. But now we're here in a game. And my favorite thing is that, the whole country is playing an FCS school, and LSU and Florida State are here getting ready to get in the ring and just start swinging at each other. So I love it.
Big boys playing big boy football, man. You love to see it. You love to see it, as the kids would say. All right, so I had unbridled enthusiasm and optimism for Florida State's chance against LSU. I think I'm still there, Matthew. I still think, Florida State I still think is going to win the game on Sunday. But there's a couple things that have maybe, surfaced here, at least just listening to Brian Kelly's comments the other day. Some people took a little bit of umbrage with some of my tempered enthusiasm here of late. But, for so long, I just thought that LSU did not reload on the defensive line to the level that they had historically been at, right? And then with Mason Smith's suspension, that also kind of threw a monkey wrench into their plans. But hearing the way that Brian Kelly talked about, what they're getting from the recruits that transferred in on the defensive line, on the interior, I know, what do you want the coach to say about his guys? But it seemed like when you use the word outstanding to talk about two of his guys on the defensive line, is LSU at a level, maybe not national championship level, but are the expectations for LSU's defensive line to be elite, at least on the interior? Because I didn't see that coming, and I don't know if that's where they'll be, but Brian Kelly kind of hinted at least some good vibes on those guys on the interior.
Yeah, obviously the Mason Smith injury / suspension is what a lot of people are talking about, including myself. I do think that is a substantial blow because Mason Smith at 100% changes, I think, a lot of this game. However, I do think for those who obviously aren't covering LSU on a daily basis, it's like, all right, they added a West Virginia starter, they added a Florida rotation piece, they added Arizona starter. Like, they added pieces, but how good are those pieces in reality? Obviously, Florida State adds transfers too. It's like everybody who adds transfers, you don't really know what you have until you really see them. And I think Jordan Jefferson transfer from West Virginia is really, really good. I think he's going to be a big piece. They slide in Jacoby and Guillory at nose tackle, who played a lot of snaps last year behind Jaquel and Royce. So I think defensive line overall, I look at the defensive tackle spot as maybe being like without Mason Smith, how they're going to work it out. But you have Mekhi Wingo, all SEC, and then you slide in Guillory or Jefferson or Lee in the other spots. I think they're still really good there. And then to me, this comes down to, I think Savion Jones is very, very good. And then the jack position where, again, they got transfers with defensive end, Ovia Gofu from Texas and Brayton Swinson from Oregon. That's the spot that I'm going to need to see more than anything is like Ovia Gofu was good at Texas. So I know he can play at this level, but how dynamic can he be is my question. So they're really good, but the how dynamic are they is my question without Mason Smith.
Yeah, I think that's where I was. I think I still ultimately am. I just, again, it's LSU, man. I never expected Florida State. I still think it's going to probably be within the spread. I think it'll still probably be like a 2.1 possession kind of game. But yeah, I did wonder. I don't think they have that kind of dynamic talent on the edges, and I just didn't know if they had that kind of like run stopping, disruptive force in the middle here. But I guess we'll see if Jordan Jefferson can kind of a step.
Yeah, I think. To this point, and also to a big picture point, I think I realized this over like the past week is I might just be too deep into the weeds here, where it's just like I've seen this team for so long. It's like every little thing that could go wrong is just going wrong in my head. So it works in both ways. As a beat writer, you can be on the one side, be like, oh, there's no way this loses, there's no way this happens, and then on the other side, Mason Smith goes down, and I'm like, I don't know, but I do think that they're going to be fine. Like, I don't think they're going to get pushed around. I am interested in also. I went back and watched Florida State, Florida State, NC State. Obviously, the two, wasn't, they lost the NC State game, but I was like, okay, it's a good offensive line. I don't know. You can help me, and I'll ask you this on when I flip to my podcast is how great the offensive line is for Florida State. So that battle is really intriguing to me. Whereas, LSU's O-line versus Florida State's defensive line, that is like two juggernauts.
Yeah.
Flip it to the other side. I don't fully know what to expect.
Yeah, I think we're talking about like maybe an elite offensive line with LSU going up against what might be an elite defensive line with Florida State. Mm-hmm. And then I think we have a very good Florida State offensive line going up against a good LSU defensive line. I think so. I think that's where a little bit of the factor working in my favor in terms of thinking that, projecting Florida State to win the game kind of works a little bit from the inside out, if you will, or at least from the front side to the back side. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the secondary. Obviously, that was on everyone's mind when we spoke about 10 days or so ago. I know Denver Harris is a guy that was kind of in the mix, had been running with reserves. I know things have been clamped down a little bit more in terms of access for you guys.
Yeah.
But with Sage Ryan, we did hear him coming back. Let people know, because, I did some research and found out, I didn't realize Sage Ryan was such a highly recruited guy coming out of high school. Now he's been a few years in college here. How how much of an X factor could he possibly be? Brian Kelly seemed to really like what Sage has brought to the backside of this defense.
Yeah, it's funny. Just in general of those Ed Orgeron teams, you can argue, obviously they underachieved those 2 years, 2020 and 2021, but they still brought in top 3 recruiting classes, I think, both those years. So it's like you have these 5 stars here, and they weren't able to obviously do anything with them. Sage Ryan was one of those guys, I think, 2021 class. He's going into his redshirt sophomore year. Top 40 player, top 30 player in the country, somewhere around there. Really, really highly rated guy. He's been bouncing around between safety and nickel the past 2 years. They put him at corner in the scrimmage, the last access that we had, which was about a week and some change ago. They put him at corner, which surprised us. But I think when you look at how shallow they are at that position, it makes sense because they love Greg Brooks at nickel. They love their safeties. They're just trying to figure out the second cornerback position in particular, because they have Zy Alexander transfer, FCS All-American transfers in. He's cornerback 1. Cornerback 2 is either Deuce Chestnut, Syracuse, who transfers in from Syracuse, who was 2-year starter there. No, he's not a bad player, but they're still looking for options. And then you slide Sage Ryan over there, who you watch his high school tape and you're like, okay, yeah, this makes sense why he's like, borderline 5-star guy. He's incredibly fast, incredibly strong, awesome athlete. He's not the biggest though, about 6 foot on a good day. So that'll be interesting to see if they do end up starting him. It's kind of more of his speed and athleticism overall. And he's, we'll see if he can match up, but I think that's the thinking with sliding him out there and maybe potentially starting him going into this one.
I think I was reading something from your compatriot there, Shea Dixon, about that maybe like even Deuce Chestnut, who's thought about being maybe that second cornerback, no longer might be in that kind of role, or did I maybe misinterpret some of the writing that he had on the website?
No, I think he's in contention there. It's just been such a turntable at DB, and before the fall we thought maybe Chestnut would go to nickel, and now he's at corner, and then Ryan's out at corner. Greg Brooks slides down from safety down to nickel, who I think Greg Brooks is a very good player. And then you have Andre Sam transfer from Marshall sliding in at safety, and he's been one of the best players of the transfer portal for them. So I do think Chestnut will get reps at corner. We'll get plenty of snaps at corner. The question is whether him or Sage Ryan starts. And either way, I don't think LSU is going to be out here leaving those guys on islands against Coleman and Wilson. So a lot of it's probably tactical if they do end up going with whoever they end up picking.
Yeah, it's going to be a pick your poison kind of thing, it feels like. Last thing on the defensive side things, Harold Perkins, obviously, we couldn't talk enough about just how talented he is. Florida State's going to have to account for him. We would imagine most of this game here. I don't know how much Florida State's going to want to account for him and then sort of also do what they want to do and not worry about him. But what have you heard from coaches here maybe lately? What have you seen from him? I know you kind of were, you don't want to give away everything tactically that LSU trying to do with him, but the fact that he's going to be used in so many different ways, I mean, is that a good thing for LSU, or does that show that they need to kind of cover up deficiencies by moving him around seemingly everywhere around the field?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a negative because they want him on the field on first and second downs, where last year it was more so him just strictly as a pass rusher, which he was obviously incredible at. I mean, he only played about 9 games and had 8 sacks, or so on and so forth. But still, he played more than 9 games. I just say the first couple games he was in and out of the lineup, but still, they're putting him at middle linebacker. So I think the linebacker group is so much further ahead of where they were last year between him and Omar Spates. I think that is just a real positive for this defense, and I'm interested to see how that impacts the game in every single way. But yeah, I do think he's going to rush the passer quite a bit. They've prepared this whole offseason without knowing Mason Smith was going to be suspended pretty much. So constructing a pass rush that includes Harold Perkins, I think, is obvious. And I think he's the type of player. I mean, everybody can debate it. He's probably just, regardless of position, the best player on LSU, maybe the best player in this game. So he is the type of guy that can single-handedly get a strip sack, where he had 4 of those last year, make a big play on defense. And so I do think Harold Perkins is the guy that Florida State is going to have to account for. If they can limit his production, I think Florida State's probably in a good spot.
Tangential thought here. We talked about, you mentioned the highly recruited classes that Orgeron had on his way out. Whatever happened to Quincy Wiggins? Is it just not there? Has he been battling injuries? Has it just been a different kind of acclimation for him? Because, looking at this game like a year ago, you heard about him coming in as a freshman, and you figured by this point now, maybe in his career with how highly recruited he was as a defensive end, he'd be a part of the puzzle for LSU rather, but doesn't seem like he's that ahead right now, or at least that much into the plans in the immediate term.
Yeah, LSU's depth chart's funny because you see like on the third string, there's just a couple like 5 stars here and there. You're like John Emery at running back, 5-star, Quincy Wiggins, 5-star. It's like, it's always interesting, but yeah, it's really interesting. Last year he got hurt early in the season and they chose to redshirt him. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. Even though I thought he would play this year, he hasn't taken that step forward. I think a lot of people have expected. I didn't think he would start this year, but I thought he would be that second defensive end behind Savion Jones because physically he's incredible, as you'd expect a guy that highly rated to be. But he hasn't quite done that yet. So it'll be interesting to see how much he plays in this game and obviously moving forward because they're not afraid to move people around to play other players. I mentioned Paris Shan, a transfer from Arizona, who can play the 3 technique, can bounce out to edge. They've played him behind Savion Jones in the 2 deep. So Quincy Wiggins is an interesting player, especially because I just had such high expectations for him coming in. And then you get into Deshaun Womack. I believe he finished top 25 in the country this year as a freshman. So now he comes in as a freshman, and we'll see if he gets on the field. So just a lot of players that are really talented that we'll see how it goes now that the season's here.
Or on the offensive side of things, we talked about Jaden Daniels and how much he's grown. This offensive line we know is filled with the talented, large human beings that are skilled. But going to the game last year, I was worried sick about how Florida State was going to be able to match up with LSU's passing attack because of Jack Betch, Keyshawn Booty, obviously. We had no idea what Malik Neighbors was going to turn into. Brian Thomas, a big target for them to throw at. Mason Taylor is a true freshman, so we didn't maybe have a full grasp of what he can be.
Yeah.
Are you at that same level? You think is LSU still at that same level? Are they better? How are they in terms of the pass game? Maybe not so much Jaden Daniels, but the guys that he's going to be looking at and trying to get open and thrown to.
No, yeah, it is hilarious looking back to where we were last year at this time, where it's like Keyshawn Boutte, first round lock, all that stuff. We knew Malik Neighbors was going to be good. We saw him in spring and fall, and we're like, this guy's about to have a great season. So his exploding onto the scene was kind of expected for us, at least. But yeah, and then we had some question marks. Kyron Lacey had transferred in from Louisiana Lafayette. So Brian Thomas had got starts as a freshman, as a sophomore last year. He was good, not great. Obviously, the past game, if you go back and watch that Florida State game, it's just a mess. Keyshawn or Daniels is throwing the ball before Keyshawn even turns his head, and we're like, what is Keyshawn doing? Is Keyshawn checked out? Then Jaden Daniels is running for his life back there because the offensive line can't block. It's just an absolute mess of a game there. It did get a lot better as the season went on, but still was not very explosive. It was Jaden Daniels' lowest yards per attempt of his career. I think only around 7.5. So I think I saw a stat today that I'd seen before. I think he was somewhere in the 106 range in average depth of target last year. So just really reserved. A lot of Mason Taylor at tight end, check downs, a lot of Malik Neighbors in the slot type stuff. So not explosive at all. This year, the difference is obviously going to be them trying to be more explosive, whether that is him throwing the ball 20 yards down the field or it's just them hitting players on the move, in space a little bit more. There's a lot of different ways to be explosive. That'll be interesting to see how they do that. But at receiver, Malik Neighbors has been awesome throughout fall. He's going to be he's a top 5 receiver in the country, in my opinion, just with how much better he looks from last year. And then Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey are very talented. I think they're going to have to prove it this year, though, taking that step up as starters. And then I'll mention Aaron Anderson, for those who maybe don't know, transfers in from Alabama, former top 40 player in the country from Carr and down in New Orleans. Going to be the starting punt returner, starting kick returner, and an awesome slot weapon for them. Something they didn't have last year at 5'9", and those type of players that just find the crevices of the defense. So that's kind of, I think they feel good about the receiver room, but Malik Neighbors is clearly the alpha, and I expect him to, surpass 1,000 yards again.
Is Aaron Anderson that like X factor that maybe you guys weren't able to see all the practices that we can't hear in Tallahassee, but like if he lives up to the billing, at least what he was as a recruit, and maybe some of the things that you guys have heard behind the scenes, 5'8", 190, that's a unique build of a wide receiver. Yeah. But if you can have that sort of explosive ability from the slides, that's something that maybe you guys aren't fully counting on, but if it does show itself, it could change the makeup of this game and wouldn't catch it maybe by surprise.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of looking at it. We're not like, people aren't looking at it as like, oh, Aaron Anderson needs to be a player who ends the season with 50 receptions, for however many yards. But if he does end the year with 50 receptions for 6 touchdowns or something like that, then you're like, okay, that's icing on the cake, because I do think he's going to be used in, I don't want gadget sounds, derogatory. It sounds like he can't do anything else, but right. He is going to be a guy that they can use on screens. I mean, we saw in fall camp him take a screen about 20 yards out of nothing almost. And so that's what you get from him at obviously punt returner skills, slot skills, good hands. So it will be interesting to see how durable he is, but on paper, he's incredibly talented. So I think that is kind of the icing on the cake at receiver.
All right, let's sorry for taking up so much of your time here, but just let's kind of try to land this plane here. So, ultimately, I just, again, I think Florida State's offensive line will be able to do enough to keep LSU's defensive line at bay, and this will allow Jordan Travis to have a pretty reasonably comfortable night looking downfield and, doing what he has to do, throwing the ball. I mean, he's not a running quarterback at all. I mean, Jordan Travis is a full operating, high-level quarterback. It just, how can you see LSU for 60 minutes, either, staying stride for stride with these receivers, with its Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, Jaheim Bell as tight end, Destin Hill, from Edna Carr High School, same as Aaron Anderson, will be at slot. How much is LSU going to try to? Do they have to? It seems like that. You watch the NC State game, as I'm babbling here. You saw the NC State game against Florida State. The reason that NC State seemingly gave Florida State so much trouble was that they pretty much disguise everything pre-snap. Like they move around. What you're seeing pre-snap is not what you get as soon as the ball hits Jordan's hands. But not a lot of teams can do that. Not a lot. I mean, everything sounds good to be able to be exotic and hide all your formations and your coverages, but it's hard to do that. I mean, most teams line up and then they're just going to play it as is. Does LSU have that ability? What do you think is LSU's best chance at slowing down Florida State's passing attack?
Yeah, I just wrote a story on it today. Yesterday and today, how those like kind of not projects, but kind of stories kind of build. I watched the Florida game, watched the NC State game, a little bit of Clemson, Wake Forest here and there, but those are the two games I focused on, and they were both games where Jordan Travis obviously had his lowest completion percentage. I think they were the only two games where he was under 57%, because Clemson was 57%, but they were also the two games where he had the most rushing yards. By far, 80 something and 100 something, 108. So, and then if you include Clemson, those are the 3 highest rushing yard games and the 3 lowest completion percentage games. So it's like
there's a correlation there. Look at you, Matt. There's a correlation there.
Look at that. There you go. Subscribe to the Bengal Tiger on 3 for all this insight. But yeah, it's like you like you said, you want Jordan Travis out of the pocket. You want Jordan Travis, even though he can run, you want him to do that before you want him to throw the ball, because last year against LSU, I thought he was just terrific. He to throw after throw after throw he made, which was really impressive on his part. So I do think this comes down to how effective Savion Jones is at defensive end. And to come back to it, I think Harold Perkins, you mentioned NC State, the way they were able to disguise things. LSU, Matt House does a good job disguising things to a degree, but at the end of the day, Harold Perkins coming up, the A gap, the B gap, the C gap, doesn't matter where it is. That's something a team like NC State, no team in the country basically has. So if he can just go and make a play, make like 3 plays nobody else in the country can make, that's where LSU's defense is going to have to, I think, really, really change the game here. Because, like you said, I think it comes down to getting Jordan Travis, making him uncomfortable, flushing him out of the pocket, making him a runner to a degree, or at least a scrambler in situations, and just making it tough on him. Because I don't think you want Harold Perkins and Omar Speights dropping back into zone coverage for 70% of the night. That's not quite enough.
Not gonna lie, Matthew, it doesn't sound like a really good recipe for success. Like if we're putting everything on poor Harold Perkins' shoulders here to disrupt the game, and listen, it's a legitimate thing, man. A guy like him can disrupt enough plays, and you shorten up the game now with the clock running on first downs, and you lose one or two possessions because he wrecked the play. I mean, that's possible, but I just again, that's maybe not the most sturdy kind of recipe to get things done, it seems.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you go back last year, there were games Harold Perkins pretty much won on his own. I mean, the Arkansas game that was obviously different circumstances, but yeah, Harold Perkins can be that type of player if the rest of the defense is just solid. And like I said, he makes those plays. I think LSU. He had 4 strip sacks last year on like 8 of his sacks. So if he's he just knocks the ball. He's just a player, obviously. Yeah. Everybody who's seen him knows he's a player. So that is the X factor to me. And maybe, again, I feel like I'm very far into the weeds. It's like I'm scared of everything at this point. And I love Florida State, too. I think Florida State's actually a really damn good team. So I have no problem with like you saying like, oh, Florida State's going to win. I'm like, yeah, very well. I believe it. Like, okay, I believe either side right now. You tell me something, I'm with it.
Hey, listen, when I'm on your podcast, man, I'll lay it out there, man. The LSU fans are going to probably give it to me, man. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I mean, like, listen, I went to Florida State, I cover them, but like, I have no, like, I am as objective as possible can be. Like, I'm level headed with this stuff. I've seen them practice enough, and I just. If you had like 5 Harold Perkins, that's a problem. But like the one guy, I think you might be able to get away over 60 minutes of avoiding him enough to eke out kind of a win. So
I can't wait to clip this after the game here. It's like only one Harold Perkins. What's the worst he can do? All right, ends the game with 10 tackles and 4 sacks. Like, oh,
right. Well, yeah, man, that's the thing. All right, so give me 2 scenarios here. So give me like fill in the blank. Like LSU wins the game if.
Well, besides hitting Jordan Travis, I think hitting Jordan Travis is number 1. But 2, I do think Jaden Daniels is gonna have to throw the ball. I feel like I've completely left out the running game for LSU. Like I haven't talked about it much, like at all.
Yeah, because I don't know, man. Because it seems like you guys have dime a dozen running backs right now. Like it's not Fournette, it's not Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like it's
2023 though. Who needs a running back? It's just. I mean, y'all got Trey Benson, so he's a very good back. But it's like at the end of the day, LSU's offensive line will dictate that. And Jaden Daniels led the team in rushing by about 300 yards last year. I don't think he does that this year, but still, you have that type of guy. Now, Jaden Daniels is a runner. Like he is definitely looking to run in situations, and he is dynamic when he does that. So, but ultimately, I think he's gonna have to throw the ball and be effective throwing it. So I'll go with that. If LSU wins the game, Daniels is gonna have to have a really, really strong passing performance.
All right. And what are the things that you see unfolding in your mind that would lead to like maybe Florida State walking away with the win in Orlando on Sunday?
Again, yeah, it comes back to hitting Jordan Travis. If they don't hit Jordan Travis, I don't see them winning this game because as much as I think they're going to protect the corners to a degree, you can only protect so much. And then, Coleman and Wilson will catch some of those jump balls that they caught last year. So I do think that's the biggest thing going into this game. For LSU to lose this game, you kind of flip both the things that I said. If you come back to it, I'll go with, I do think watching the NC State game, watching the Florida games, there is a clear, like this Florida State team, as much as I talk about Jordan Travis, is like last year it was very much a run team, like in a lot of ways. Like it was very much, we set you up with the run game. We get to 3rd and short. We convert 51% of our 3rd downs. It's very much a run first team last year. And then we're going to hit you with a big play off of that. So I do think it's kind of correlated to what we're talking about the defensive line. If the defensive line for LSU gets a push, then and slows down the run and doesn't let them get to those 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 2s, then I think they're in a good shot. But at the end of the day, I think Florida State is a really good running team. I think they'll have some success there. I could see that happening.
Can we get a prediction out of you?
Jeez, I don't even know what I'm going to say.
Don't feel obligated. It's okay. It's okay.
No, I did my LSU season predictions, and I was kind of I think 10-2, 11-1 is a real possibility for LSU. Which I don't think is a hot take between those two. But I went with 11-1. I'd been the pessimist for a long time the past 2 years, but I went 11-1, and I had the 1 loss as Florida State. So
okay.
I don't know. Alabama just is weird to me. It's a weird team. So yeah.
Nick's going to clip that out. Nick's going to clip
that. There you go.
team.
Nick Saban's going to clip it. I'm just calling them a weird team. It's going to be up in their borderline, in their locker room.
That's Matthew Brune everywhere from the Bengal Tiger, the LSU website on the On3 network. Matthew, thanks so much, man. Have a great weekend, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, that is a wrap for us. The plan was to do a live show on Thursday. No clue what's going to happen on Thursday, but this show is recorded well in advance, so follow us on social media, but be subscribed to warchant.com. We probably let you know over on the Tribal Council, so be sure to do that. Jeff Cameron Show might be back in effect. Not 100% sure, but listen, warchant.com is always on. Always on. So we've got plenty of content going up over there. We'll have the Warchant Report at some point this week, hoping to drop it on Friday if everything goes according to plan here. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Who knows how things are? I might be totally exaggerating about what I just endured. Who knows? I don't know. I'm from the past, everybody. We really don't know. But we thank you so much again, for real. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you could hit the thumbs up on the way out, 5-star rating review. We're going to keep cranking out shows. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to keep rocking and rolling like Marky Mark in Boogie Nights or whatever he said when he won his award. So that's a wrap for us. For Corey, and thanks again to Matthew Brune of the Bengal Tiger, I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.